Wanawanga. Ilana no totuke bada chebuki waka.
Wait, what does Leia sound like when she's in the helmet and she's speaking the bounty hunter language?
She sounds hot.
Hi, welcome back to Not Qualified, and we today we're talking about Dewanawanga, which translates from job. What is
I don't think whatever his name was. I memorized it at one point. I don't think he speaks.
What is
Hutties?
Hutty? That's the race, right? No, Hutties is the job of the Hut.
Yeah.
What is the race of the tentacle people? The Ahsoka Tana.
Yeah, I could tell you at one point. I don't care enough right now.
So he speaks Squid, and Squid language says Dewanawanga, which
SpongeBob.
my clarinet Dewanawanga, and Dewanawanga in Squid talk means we're talking
4K
about
Ultra.
We're talking about the 4K Ultra despecialized edition of Return of the Jedi today, so you don't have to hear. Give me both versions of the song real quick. The Return of the Jedi, the band.
This is the original.
Yeah.
Background music. Just imagine. And then the new one is.
It's burned into my brain.
It's so bad.
Well,
they have the bug dude going.
It's like a Muppet song. It's almost like Can You Picture That?
Yeah.
But worse.
But if it
was bad,
unintelligible.
yeah. No one's gonna know what we're talking about. We're talking about Star Wars today, and for you mega fans out there, you will have recognized everything we just did. So let me give some backstory on why we're talking about this.
Yeah, give it.
So Star Wars came out in 1977.
Yep.
It was called Star Wars. It was not called Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. It was called Star Wars.
Yep.
And then in 1980, the sequel came out, and it was the sequel to the movie that was just called Star Wars. The sequel was called Star Wars Episode 5: The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
And everybody said, huh? But they didn't really, because George Lucas did interviews and articles and E-Weekly. I don't know if that was a thing then.
Yeah.
He talked to people. They knew that he had planned a 6-episode saga and that he's starting in the middle. And that's actually great. That's a genius little... It's a cool little move. It's
Great
good
idea
for him, and it also flows right along with what he was doing with Star Wars, which was like depicting human mythology in a space fantasy format. You know, like it's just like Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell, hero's journey type stuff that he's putting on the big screen in the form of sci-fi. It's really cool, and depicting good versus evil and light versus dark and. You know, the struggle within all of us, the reason, mythology, all that. He's depicting myth on the big screen. I love it.
All while managing to pay homage to
samurai movies.
Samurai movies and John Ford's original Western
Westerns,
movies.
which were also inspired by some samurai movies.
Which, for all of you
Akira
old heads,
Kurosawa.
if you go back to our first episode, you can hear all about this.
I think it's actually the second episode.
You go to our second episode.
The first episode was just us introducing the podcast and the rating system.
Oh, you're right.
Second episode was Kurosawa, Tarantino, and Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yes. So, anyway, all that to say, Star Wars is great, and the whole idea of him starting in the middle of the story is actually really cool and thematic.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I rewatched the original Star Wars, which I'll get into this week, which I've seen probably 400 times in my life. And the movie starts in the middle of the story. It gives you the title crawl that says, hey, there's a civil war going on. And like, think of this if it was a modern movie. If there was a modern movie that tried to tell the same story, they would not start you after the Death Star plans had been stolen. That would be the movie. It'd be a heist movie. It would be about them planning to steal the plans. No, that's the most exciting part of the whole plot, and George Lucas skips right over it. He tells you in the title crawl, there was a really cool top secret mission. They stole the Death Star plans, and now they're on the run with them.
Which also, like, for people sitting in the theater, you're reading the title crawl and going, "What is a Death Star?
What in the world?" Well, I can't remember. I think it just said. I can't remember if it said Death Star. I think it did in the title crawl. I don't remember. But anyway, you're sitting there reading it, and then it's saying there's the evil Galactic Empire, and it's a period of civil war, and the rebellion stole these plans, and now they're on the run, and Darth Vader's in pursuit. And then it just opens, and the Empire is just chasing their ship.
Yeah.
Tantive 4, by the way, is the name of that ship.
Yeah.
Chased by an Imperial Star Destroyer, and they're just... that's where the story starts. And then the first 30 minutes of the movie, our only surrogates that we experience the story through are robots.
Yeah.
The first half hour almost is just C-3PO and R2. We don't meet Luke until pretty far into the movie.
Yeah.
And then the whole movie takes place on Tatooine, and then the second half takes place on the Death Star.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, that movie's fascinating because it's a hidden fortress. Kurosawa's a hidden fortress in space. Anyway, it starts you right in the middle of the action and moves on. And that's perfect that he called it episode 4. But for all you people listening, you might not know this. Originally, episode 4, A New Hope, was not anywhere to be seen on the screen. It was not in the title. It was not in the promotional material. That had nothing to do with Star Wars. Star Wars came out, and it was just called Star Wars. That was the name of the movie. And the reason is because... though George Lucas may have had 6 movies played out in his head, I think he's lying. I don't think it's true. I just think it's clear watching Star Wars that he kind of made some stuff up as he went. He might have had a general thrust of ideas.
Yeah, I think he had built up a mythology in his own head about what the story
that he did not write down. And then when he started to try to actually write the movies, I think he changed a lot of things.
I think whenever that movie blew up to the extent that it did, he was like, oh, like I could actually turn this... Mm-hmm. I could turn this into something. Oh, what are those ideas that I've been holding on to about this whole thing?
There's an interview that came out recently with John Williams where he's talking about how, the Twin Sons theme. I think that's the Twin Sons theme. No, it's the other one. It's not da 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 da. It's the other one. It's the da 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 da. No, wait, that's Han and Leia's theme. It's the other one that starts with a 1-5. Da da. Gosh, I don't remember. Anyway, John Williams in an interview was talking about how he wrote that theme in the original movie to be Luke and Leia's love theme. And then the second movie, he watches it and sees that they're brother and sister. He gets to write a new love theme for Han and Leia, which ends up being actually better. Because Han and Leia's... Han Solo and the Princess is one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever written by a human. Anyway, all I have to say, it seems like it wasn't planned, or George Lucas was just weirdly secretive about things. So... when Star Wars came out, it was just called Star Wars because he didn't know if he'd be able to make a sequel. It was just a one-off thing. That's why it has such a satisfying ending, because though he had more planned in his head, he did not know if he would get to make it. But then he released The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, episodes 5 and 6. He called them episodes 5 and 6, and they all came out. Everybody was happy. Everybody loved Star Wars. Made a lot of money. And then the 90s came. And you know what George Lucas did? He said, let's release these 3 movies that I've made on VHS for everybody. But I think I'm going to change something, because I called episode 5, episode 5. I called episode 6, episode 6. But episode 4 was just called Star Wars. And now that I know I made sequels, it doesn't make sense. I want it to be uniform. So let's change that. That's a pretty minor thing. Yeah. That makes sense. He wants it to be uniform and all look the same, so that when they release it on VHS, episode 4 is not just called Star Wars anymore. It's called episode 4, A New Hope. And when you watch the movie on VHS, it says that. Yeah. Episode 4, A New Hope. Yeah. When it pops up on the screen. That makes sense. Good job, George. You made a change. And you know what? It fits. That's fine. And yes, it's not how people originally saw it in the theater. It's not the movie in its original form. But you know what? Fine. It makes sense. Now all the movies match.
Yeah.
But then you know what? Greedy little George... he got an idea with his whitewashed jeans and Reebok tennis shoes and his plaid
tucked in
shirt and with his gut. You know what he thought of? He thought, that gives me an idea. I was able to change something about my movies that I released 13 years ago, 14 years ago, and release it in home video format with things changed. That it's just different than the way it was in the theater. And nobody said anything because I'm the one who made it. I get to make the decisions, right?
Yeah.
That's right, George. And so you know what he does? he says, I'm going to change everything about it until it's unrecognizable and then erase the original from existence. Because I am basically space Hitler. I am... that might be an exaggeration. This is what George Lucas did. For all you out there who are Zoomers and you've watched Star Wars and maybe you've only seen the original trilogy on DVD or on Disney Plus or on Blu-ray, if that's you, you have never seen the original trilogy in its original form.
Yeah.
You have seen George Lucas's monstrosity edited version. George Lucas went in and changed 1,000 things about the original trilogy. He added a bunch of crappy, terrible, aged, god-awful CGI. He replaced some scenes completely, like the Death Star explosion. He erased years of work, months of work of the original VFX artists and replaced it with some stupid CGI. He made Han do a little weird neck twitch so he could dodge Greedo's bullet. He changed a lot of things.
I would like to also add that the majority of these changes came with the fact that computer graphics had come a long way since he had started working in the industry.
CGI didn't exist when the original trilogy came out.
Yeah.
And so George Lucas in the 90s started to see, like, let me think, Terminator 2, and he was like, wow, look what we can do with CGI. I wish I had that 10 years ago. And then he thought, wait a minute.
I can.
I'm the master of my own destiny.
Yeah, I'm going to do what I think that I should do now to the movie that came out 14 years ago.
And that, for all you folks at home following along, was a bad decision because you don't get to make that call. Art was made, and it now exists as art for people to be consumed, and you don't get to change it with time because then it's not a work of art. A work of art is informed by its... It sounds pretentious, calling Star Wars a work of art, but it is. It's informed by its time it came out in. Imagine if Leonardo da Vinci was immortal and it was like 2020 and he was like, wow, the Mona Lisa, you know, I'm glad I made that, but I wish that she was sticking out her yacht for the Rizzler. So I need to update it for modern times because that didn't exist when I painted that, but I could be so much better. She could be, you know, she could have purple hair. She could have a shaved eyebrow, a notched eyebrow. She could have septum piercing. Like, there are so many cooler things I could have done if only I had known they were possible. And so let's repaint the Mona Lisa and give her let's give the Mona Lisa a dab pen, you know? Anyway, that's what George Lucas did. And so if you've ever watched Star Wars not on VHS is the... What are you laughing at? If you've ever watched Star Wars on VHS, you've seen it in its original form, but it's not HD. It's a VHS. It looks terrible.
Yeah.
If you watch it on DVD, it's a little better. It's in 480p or whatever. I think that is DVD resolution. And then you've seen it in a more HD version, but it's completely edited and added crappy 90s CGI. And if you've seen it on Blu-ray or Disney Plus, then you've seen it with modern terrible Marvel CGI and way too much of it added, and some scenes completely changed or removed. But at least it's in HD. So the point is, for all of us scrubs out there who somehow are too young to have seen Star Wars in theaters, we have never seen the original Star Wars in HD the way that it was portrayed on screen. What a travesty, Joe. What a tragedy.
Yeah, terrible. What are we going to do about that? How can we possibly solve this
Well, we
problem?
could go back in time and watch Star Wars in theaters.
That's true, but that seems impossible. Is there a more practical solution?
There is. There is a man out there. He's from Europe, from Western Europe. He's very white. He's very nerdy. I think that he probably has some social... what's the politically correct way to say it? He was born to do this, and what he did, this man, his name is Harmy. I don't think that's his real name. I think and he's not the only one to do this. This has been a thing done by many people. Yeah. He has restored the Star Wars original trilogy in its original form as seen in theaters in 1977, 1980, and 1983, without CGI, without additions, in complete HD. And not only that, but in most cases in 4K.
Yeah.
4K quality as seen in theaters without additions. And he did this. It's very simple. He took every scene that was unedited So everything that George Lucas didn't touch from the Blu-ray, just ripped it straight from the Blu-ray. That's fine.
Yeah.
Him and a team of people. It's not just him. A lot of people worked on this for like 15 years or some amount of years. I don't know. They ripped things from Blu-ray that were untouched. And then they were like, well, how do we get the rest? Well, we could go to the Laserdisc. The Laserdisc is HD to an extent, but it's kind of hard to get your hands on a Laserdisc player. Yeah. They're very expensive. But some scenes can be pulled from that, but not everything. And it's not quite the quality we're looking for. So you know what these absolute mad lads did?
Lunatics.
These lunatics found film prints from the 1970s from movie theaters showing Star Wars. They found film prints on 35 millimeter that were untouched, undamaged by age and time, and they took these and manually scanned them in frame by frame and color corrected them and modified them to fit your screen. Yes, I quoted the VHS tape. Yeah. And that's what they've done. And then they released these as Harmy's Despecialized Edition, which really just means the original trilogy, the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you can watch them. Now, I will say this for legal reasons. To watch them, you have to go through a lengthy, and I wouldn't know. From what I've heard online. And read online, you have to go through a lengthy process of things, hoops you have to jump through to like download these and watch them and have them, have the files and do all sorts of things. That's right. Now, it is technically not illegal to do this. I would like all of you to know, you don't have to be afraid to do this. If you want to just Google Harmy's Despecialized Edition and follow the instructions, it is not illegal to download these as long as you have the original trilogy on DVD, Blu-ray, VHS, whatever. If you own it, then it's not illegal for you to go download it because you're downloading. Really? That's absolutely the case. Yes, that's copyright law. You are downloading something you already own. The only time it's illegal is if you distribute it to others who don't own it or you sell it for a profit. And that is why Harmy's Despecialized Edition is free online. You don't have to pay for it. You go and you download it, and it's completely free because otherwise it'd be illegal. But I promise you, yes, it is completely legal.
I want you to know that if I were to go to prison for murdering, I don't know, a single mother.
Okay.
And then I get out, and not only, I just did 25 in the pen.
Yeah.
And I still have massive fines. And I've got, community service to work. There's no amount of community service and good doing that I could do to match the amount of absolute painstaking labor for free that these people did for this movie. It's
amazing the absolute virtue of Harmy and his kin.
That purely to
out of love for Star Wars.
Love for Star Wars and just pure respect for the film itself to give it back to the people that originally saw it. Or
the way it was in theaters.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I am not, this is not an admission of guilt. Not that it would be anyway, because it's not illegal. But just in case I'm wrong, I had access to this trilogy. I'll say it that way. And I rewatched the original Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
With my wife, Caitlin. And we watched it the other night.
Yeah.
In full HD, glorious quality, with zero changes. Now, I'd seen it in its unedited form before, many times, hundreds of times, because I grew up watching these movies on VHS. Yeah. You and I are probably the last remnant of the VHS generation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's whenever I got into it. It was the gold-rimmed Darth Vader cover box set.
I had the box set. Is it the same one? I had the box set that was like dark. It was like black or blue. Yeah. But then Star Wars was blue. Empire Strikes Back was red or pink.
Yeah.
And then Return of the Jedi was green? Maybe. Or something. I don't know. Gold, maybe? I don't know. Yes, we had the same set. So I've seen these unedited. That's how I know them. So when I see the special editions with the added CGI and Han shooting in self-defense instead of shooting first, which is just an utter disgrace, by the way, that he changed that. that he was like, oh, it's too dark that Han shoots a guy to get out of paying a debt. I have to have him shoot in self-defense, so he has to magically dodge a bullet from 4 feet away.
He's a criminal.
That's his art.
The show opens up with him being the movie opens up with him being a criminal.
That's also and that's his whole character arc. Is that he's a terrible person at the beginning. He kills people to get out of doing what he doesn't want to do. He's a smuggler. He's a thief, and then he grows a heart. That's the whole point of his character arc, is that he comes back to save Luke because he has a character arc. That's called in screenwriting. That's called a character arc, and that's what you're supposed to do in movies. But if you decide that that's too dark to have a character that is bad at the beginning and then becomes good, then that's too dark because the kids don't want to see somebody who's bad at ever in any stage. Then you just have them be good the whole time, and they only kill in self-defense. And then you know what you have? You have a Batman movie, but you don't even have a good Batman movie because even Batman Begins has an arc. Yeah. He's going to go in there and kill Falcone with a gun until Rachel stops him, and he has to learn otherwise because he has a character arc. Yeah. So what you've got is the second half of a Batman movie, and that's what George Lucas wants to show his kids because he's an idiot, but he's also a genius. Anyway, all that to say, it's glorious to watch it in its original form without the stupid changes in full HD, which I have never done in my life until allegedly now.
I was really hoping you were going to throw us a curveball and say, I liked it less.
That would be really funny if I was like, actually, I like... That's actually the worst change of the whole special editions, is that he took out the original music from Return of the Jedi and Jabba's Palace, which was just background
it
music,
was just
like
Max
the Cantina
Rebo's band
blanking away. He replaced it with an MTV music, like a Space Britney Spears CGI music video.
Yeah, if you want a cool, just informative message about what music in space looks like, look up jazz music in Star Wars. It'll just give you a really cool, informative,
Can we talk about Miko?
Insight. Miko? Yeah, let's talk about Miko.
So... you reminded me, jazz music in Star Wars. Miko is the probably the most impressive and influential genius of all time. And in the 70s, 80s, he started releasing albums. Started in the 70s. Yeah. Releasing albums of disco music of movie themes, and he started with an album called Star Wars and Other Intergalactic Funk, which was disco and funk versions of all the music from Star Wars as well as other space themed music, and it is one of the best albums of all time. He has a disco version of the Star Wars theme with the Imperial March of all that. Actually, the Imperial March is on his second album, I think, not the first one. All that good stuff. And then he released a series of other albums. He did the Superman music. He did the music from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He did the Wizard of Oz. And they're all disco versions, and they're amazing. And you should all go listen to them. And then he quit music in like the 90s to become like a social worker or something. I don't know what he did. It was weird. Respect to Miko. I wish Neil Young would do that.
I wish Neil Young would die.
No, not die.
That's what you just said.
I said I wish he would become a social worker.
You said he would socially work himself into the dirt. That's what you told me.
That's what farmers do every day, and they're still living.
Yes, I do.
Oh, that's your name.
Yeah.
Anyway, Joe, I know most of this episode was me talking, and that's just because I have been deep into Harmies for the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I just needed to vent. Do you have any thoughts that you would like to share?
No.